Hi, I'm Corolla on Instagram. I'm at From Corolla. Today I'm going to paint an abstract floral art piece using fountain pen inks, as well as doing some line drawing with a fine liner. So if you want to paint along with me, then I'm going to tell you what tools you're going to need, and let's do it together and have some fun. Or you can watch this and try on your own time, and that's okay too. So what you'll need are at least 2 inks. I like to use a green for the leaves and a contrasting color for the flowers. It's totally up to you what you want to paint with. I would use 1 paintbrush per ink that you're using. I go with sort of non-branded round brushes because of the flexible lines that they give me. You'll also need a jar with water, hopefully not to drink, but to dip your paintbrushes in. And I use pipettes to transfer a few drops of paint or ink into a paint palette or little ink wells, and just remember, which ink is in which ink well, so that you can use it to paint. I don't like dipping the paintbrush directly into the ink bottle just because you might get bristles or dust into the paint, into the ink bottles, and that will contaminate your inks. Once you have all those things, you'll also want to have a paper towel, just something you can use to dab your paintbrushes on, and something to protect your workspace. So a mat or paper towel down. I use the Tombow MONO Drawing Pen 05. The paper that I'm using today is from this everyday book by Galen leather. It's Tomoe river paper. It's my preferred paper to paint with using fountain pen inks just because it handles it really well. You can use watercolor paper. I find that it absorbs a lot of ink, so it's up to you which paper you want to use. But this is my go-to, and this is what will end up sort of painting, something similar to this. So I have my fresh sheet of paper. I have my inks. What I'm actually painting with today is these 2 inks from Ferris Wheel Press. I'm an ambassador for them, and so they send me inks to create content with. This one is called Festival Grove. It's a chartreuse green with a gold shimmer to it. And my second ink is called Ambrosia Indulgence, and it's a ruby red, sort of like a dark red shade with gold shimmer. Okay, so we're ready to paint. What you can do is dip your paintbrush into some water just to activate the bristles a little bit, and then dab it into your ink. Any excess ink, just sort of put it onto the side, because you don't want your paintbrush dripping with ink. You just want it saturated a bit. You can put it down onto the paper and paint just general petal outlines. And here is the relaxing part, is because you can explore the ink properties, while you're sort of painting these general floral shapes. So that is what I'm going to paint with the red. And in my mind, these are sort of 3 flowers, and you can keep it around the same, just because composition-wise, it would look great to have an odd number of flowers. So I think what we'll do is paint 3, and we'll have some leaves surrounding them. And I'll also show you how to swatch your inks. So what I usually do is I paint just a little rectangle on the bottom here, and after it dries, we'll write what the ink name is, and you can always refer back to see what inks you painted with, just to remember. So taking your second paintbrush, you can dab it into the green ink, and here's where we draw the leaves. So what I tend to do is just, put my paintbrush down and pick it up in the end so that you get this leaf outline. If you want to slow it down and be intentional about the leaves that you're painting, how you would do that is gently put your paintbrush down and push down. As you move the paintbrush, pick it up again. And so you get that leaf outline with a broad stroke here, and when you lift it up, you get that edge of the leaf. And so if you want to do that again, we can do it on the side here. So again, push down, and then as you move away, gently lift up the paintbrush. And so you sort of get this shape of a leaf, and you can add a little bit of ink to it, or you could play around with the angle that you're holding your paintbrush and the angle that you lift your paintbrush up. So what I would probably do is draw some leaves just on each sort of corner, or paint leaves in each corner like that. And so you have leaves surrounding the flowers, and it just sort of makes it look a little bit more composed in that way. And that's kind of it. So let's swatch the green underneath the red here too, just so we have that. And this is our finished piece before we draw on it. So this is sort of that abstract outline of your floral piece. And as you can see, the properties of the inks are already coming out. And that's why I love painting with shimmer inks, because you get those secondary shimmer colors coming through. So there's a few ways, actually 3 ways we can dry this piece. So one way is, if you have the time, obviously, you can set it out, forget about it for a little bit, let it dry naturally. And that is my preferred way of letting it dry, because that way the inks, sort of work through and the properties will come through naturally the way that they should. If you're pressed for time or you don't want to wait, you can use a blotter paper. If you're a fountain pen user, you may have these lying around, but they're just papers that you can put on top of your painting, and what they will do is they will absorb some of that excess ink that is wet. And so what you would just do is gently put it down and press onto the paper, and then when you lift it up, it will pull that wet ink out. The third way you can accelerate that drying time is using a heat tool. So if you're a crafter or you're a scrapbooker, you may have a heat tool, and that's the way I'm going to do it. So I'll just show you how that's done. So that heat tool did a really good job of drying the ink. So now that we can draw on top of it, it's good to go. So how I start drawing, and it's called line drawing because I let my hand guide those lines, and it's really quick, and I just sort of use those outlines of the ink to guide what those leaves would look like. But as you can see, they're very jagged, sort of chaotic lines. I'm not doing a lot of thinking when I'm drawing, just because I don't want to overthink something. Because when you overthink, sometimes you make mistakes, or you start to see mistakes when really it's just you're just making art. So with flowers, I draw the center of the flower, and then from that center I go outward and draw these oval petal shapes. And so using the ink guides, you can then draw secondary lines to show the curling of the petals, and a little bit more, it sort of gives a little bit more perspective and a little bit more interest too. And I don't fully follow the outlines of the ink. As you can see, there's some white space, and I love playing with white space because it gives a lot more interest, in my opinion. Just having that white space around the ink looks really nice to me. And again, the leaves, they don't have to be perfect in leaf shape, because I find that with just a few suggestive lines, the eye can figure out whether it's a flower or a leaf, or what that shape is. And again, we have a few leaves here, so you can play with jagged edges and different types of leaves or shapes of leaves, and kind of have fun with that. And that's pretty much it. Like, that's sort of the basic drawing of flowers and leaves. And what I do with the swatch at the bottom is I just draw a square around them. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, and you can have some white space in there as well. And just jot down what ink name it was. So this was Ferris Wheel Press, Ambrosia Indulgence. And my second ink was Ferris Wheel Press, Festival Grove. Thanks so much for watching. If you painted along with me, then I hope you had some fun. I hope you didn't take it too seriously or feel pressured to make it look perfect. If you enjoy this type of content, if you want to paint more with me, let me know in the comments, and I'll do more of these types of videos where we can paint together, we can draw together, and have some fun. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.